All right, we can start. Namaskar and good morning and Happy New Year to all of you. Let's start the class with the prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Bhuvaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devase, Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodaya. Asto ma Satgamya, Tamso ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityor ma Amritam Gamya. Om Sehna Vavtu, Sehna Bhunaktu, Seviryam Karvavahi, Tejasvi Navaditamastu, Ma Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti 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 Om. So Saturdays we study Vivekachudamani. And last week's last verse was where Adi Shankaracharya ji is saying, to the discriminating knower of Brahma. So Viveki knower, that's what discrimination means, to be able to discriminate between the real and unreal. So to the discriminating knower of Brahma, there is no greater death than carelessness about meditation. But the person who meditates regularly attains complete success. Therefore, carefully meditate upon Brahma in your mind. Clearly, he's telling us what to do. As a sadhak, what do we need to do? Okay, don't become careless. Because carelessness is the one which really makes us lazy. And laziness is a ripu, enemy for a sadhak. We often talk about that. So next part, he says verses from 330 to 338, there is only one. There's no polarity. Our mind is thinking that it's polarity. Okay, so all these verses, they are taking our attention towards that. There's only one. Let's look at verse number 330. Jivataha yasya kevalyam videhe sacha kevalaha yat kinchit pashyata bhedam bhayam brute yaju shruti. Jivata, to one while living. That means in this jivan. So to one while living. Yasya, for whom? Kevalyam, aloneness. Keval Atma, Kevalyam. Videhe, when the body is dissolved. When you are letting go of the body. Sa means he, cha means and, kevalaha, alone. Yat kinchit, even the least bit. Pashyata, he who sees. Bhedam, distinction, differentiation. Bhayam, fear. Brute, declares. Yaju Shruti, the Yajurveda. Okay. He who is completely aloof, even while living, is alone, really aloof after the dissolution of the body. Okay. So that means one who is completely established in the unity, in the oneness, while living, remains so even after the dissolution of the body. The Yajurveda declares that there is a fear for one who sees even the least bit of differentiation. So Shankaracharya ji is quoting the Yajurveda over here. You see, this is what Yajurveda says also, the primary scriptures. So this is what we got to keep in mind. So the great masters, the great yogis, the munis, they experience the state of oneness while living. Okay, when they were in this body, just like we are in the body. But even after the body falls off, still they saw the oneness. So when the body falls off, he no more experiences the oneness, he becomes the oneness. Okay, so experiences with the help of the intellect, with the mind. When you get dissolved, you become that. So with the body, he experiences the state of oneness, while the fall of the body, he becomes the one. And this is the true liberation. And this is the truth. This is the goal for all of us, to become that. And what is the sphere he is talking about? This is verse number 330. Somebody is asking which verse? 330. Page number, I don't know. So what is the fear? Because he said the Yajurveda declares that there's a fear for one who sees even the least bit of distinction. That means a person who does not see the oneness, a person is seeing the polarity. What is the fear? Fear is always born of the recognition of the other. We are never afraid of ourselves. Even in the dark, when we are walking, we are not afraid of ourselves. We are afraid that somebody else might be there. Or if we are in our house, we are not afraid until we think that somebody else is there, some kind of a noise, some kind of an alarm going off. Fear is always from somebody else. We build imaginary walls around us. Generally, with more money, better position, large houses, the taller the walls we create. We think that all these things, they will save us. They will give us peace, but they end up making us more fearful. Why? We got to question ourselves. Why all these? Why we stay afraid? Afraid of what? Got to contemplate upon that. Okay. So wherever there is a concept of the other, there is a fear. And from fear, restlessness is there too. Agitation is there too. Worry is there too. Anxiety is there too. Because they all follow one after the other. They are all like friends. So friends come together. So anyone who recognizes something other than his own self will be afraid of the other. But on the other hand, a yogi who has attained this state of kavalyam, there's no fear. While living also, and after dropping off the body also. Okay, so he who is completely aloof, that means a person who has completely recognized or established in unity, in oneness, while living remains so even after the dissolution of the body. And then he says, Yajurveda declares this also. Okay, so now let's look at the next verse, verse number 331. Yada kada va api vipaschit eshah brahmani anante api anumatra bhedam pashyati ath amushye bhayam tadev yat vikshiktam bhinateyah pramadat. Yada kada, whenever. Va means verily. Api means even. Vipaschit, wise man, wise person. Eshaha, this. Brahmani, anantehe, in the infinite Brahma. Api means also. Anu matra bhedam, the least difference. Pashyati, sees. Ath means then. Amushya, to him. Bhayam, fear. Tadaiv, then itself. Yat means that. Vikshitam was a seen. Bhinataya, as different. Pramadat, through carelessness, through mistake. Whenever the wise person recognizes even the least difference in the infinite Brahma, at once that which he sees as different through mistake becomes a source of fear to him. So it's the same idea as the previous verse, that whenever at any time, it could be just a fleeting moment. You're not afraid, just momentarily you become afraid, fear starts. The same very object that you see as other becomes the source of all your fear. Tasya bhaya bhavate. Vedas say that. Okay? So that means do not have pramad. Do not become careless. Be very vigilant about it. So this is the sadhana we need to do. Try to see the sameness everywhere. Brahm everywhere. Shruti, Samriti, Nyaya, Shatai, Nishidhe, Drishye, Atra, Yaswa, Atma, Matim, Upati, Dukh Upri, Dukh Jatam, Nishid Kartaha, Sa Malin Luchaha, Tatha. Shruti, Samriti, Nyaya, Shatai. Shruti is the Vedas. Samriti, the secondary scriptures. Samriti, like a Manu Samriti. There are many Samritis, but Manu Samriti is the most known. So, Nyaya Shate, those are the other scriptures. Reasoning scriptures. Nyaya means reasoning. Nyaya Shastra. So by hundreds of, Shat means 100. By the hundreds of Shrutis, Samritis and reasonings. Okay, so all these scriptures. Nishadhe, which has been denied. Drishye, with the seen objects of the world. Atra, in this. Ya means who. Swa Atma Matim Karoti, identifies. Upati, suffers. Dukh upri dukh jatam, one misery after another. Okay, haven't we seen that? One sorrow after another. Nishid karta, doer of the forbidden things. So means he, malim luchaha, a thief. Yatha means like. He who identifies himself with the objective universe. There are only two things, subjective and objective. Subjective is the Atma and the Paramatma. Everything else is objective. Okay. He who identifies himself with the objective universe, which has been denied by hundreds of Shruti, Samriti, and reasoning. So that means all these great saints, rishis, munis, yogis, they denied this objective universe. What happens? suffers. Who suffers? Who is identifying himself with the objective world. Suffers one misery after another. Like a thief, for he indulges in something forbidden. How much more direct statement a guru can make? Even after reading this, listening to this, pondering over it, if we still don't believe in it, that means we haven't entered the school yet, school of spirituality. So all the scriptures, time and again, they declare the objective phenomena is illusion. Illusion. See, there are so many reference books. I always tell you that so libraries and libraries of Hindu literature we have. But they all say the same thing. There's no contradiction. They all say. Sometimes we don't understand it because our own understanding is faulty and we think there's a contradiction, but otherwise there's no contradiction between the scriptures. This great yogi is telling us that Shruti, Smriti, Nyaya, Shatai, hundreds of them say the same thing. They tell us the right way of living. And anybody who disobeys them must end in misery, like a thief. He comes to suffer not only sorrows in this world, but also the disappointments, dejections, rejections, agonies of the mind. Again and again, one after the other. But this misunderstanding we have to remove. Misunderstanding over here really means identification with the objective world, the world of polarity. If we want to end the sorrows, end the miseries. Because these miseries consist of not only the physical, but the mental plane also. Okay. So physical, maybe somebody can help us. Mental, nobody can help us. We have to go through it ourselves and we got to remove it. So that's why this sadhana is important. And what did he tell us towards the end of the last verse we did the last week? Meditate. Meditate. Okay. And meditate on what? Meditate on Brahma. These days we even use the meditation process also for the body to improve our blood pressure. Now, meditation to connect with Brahma. That is the only reason we meditate. Those others are just the side effects. Okay? Side benefits. But the main is we got to connect with that. Next one, 333. Satye abhisandhanarataha vimuktah mahatvam atmiyam upayati nityam mithya abhisandhanarataha tu nashyet drishtam tat etat yat chaur chauryoh. Satya abhisandhanarata. One who is totally absorbed in truth, satya. Or a person who is established in the truth. Okay, beautiful term. Satya abhisandhanarata. Vimuktaha is free. Mahatvam, glory. Atmiyam, of the Atma. Upayati, attains. Nityam, eternal. Mithya abhisandhanarata, he who dwells on the unreal. So this is opposite of the very first verse. So it's up to us whether we want to get absorbed into the satya or mithya. The choice is always there. Tu means but, nashyet, perishes. Drishtam, illustrated. tat etat, that this is. Yat means which. A chor choryo, in the case of one who is not a thief and one who is a thief. A chor and chor. A chor is who's not a thief. Chor means who's a thief. He who devotes himself to meditation on the reality. And is free from avidya, attains to the eternal glory of the Atma. But he who dwells on the unreal is destroyed. That this is so is illustrated in the case of one who is not a thief and one who is a thief. Okay, so it's up to us whether we want to be thief or not thief. I was just told that the verse numbers which I am saying, it's off. So I must have a different book. So the old version maybe. So so bear with me. So you all know Sanskrit, so just look at it. So this is verse number 332 in your case, or 334? 332. Okay. I think ultimately you'll catch up, or I'll catch up. So, okay. So over here, he is giving us a contrasting picture of the two individuals. They both are devoted, but one on the real and the other one on the unreal. See, like if we look at our life, our devotion has been there. Devotion to what? Devotion to this objective world. Without devotion, we cannot. See, just like in Bhagavad Gita, also Lord Krishna says, faith is there. But faith could be tamasic, faith could be rajasic, faith could be sattvic. Still, it's a faith. So it's a devotion, love for. Devotion means love. Do we love our body more than the Atma? Because Atma we don't even know, we can't even see. So sure, we love our body. Or we love the material world. So that's why I said it's a contrasting picture over here. But the truth is that when he says Satya Abhisandhan Rata, that Satya, what is that Satya? Satya is which remains unchanged in all three periods of time. That is Satya. So from that definition, this body is not a Satya. This objective world, no matter how long lasting it is not Satya. It cannot remain the same in three periods of time. Only the Brahma can. The Atma does. That is the only Satya. Everything else is mithya, illusion. It seems Satya, but it's not. These yogis, they don't say that it's not there. It is there. Body is here. Okay, but it's not a Satya. It changes. So a person who is reveling in the constant reflection upon the untruth, the objects, the equipments, because they will destroy ultimately, there is a more and more sorrows. Painful life of tension, stress, strain. And he's calling this kind of a person a chore, dishonest, cheat. Okay, so both the examples, the honest person is a chore and dishonest person is a chore. So, because honest person will do honest things. And because of that honesty, he's happy. The dishonest person, we know that what happens. Sometimes we see that dishonest person is acquiring a lot, but constantly afraid of others. No matter what kind of a chori we do, what kind of a thievery we do, in our mind, there's always a little fear. So both the honest and the dishonest, they live in the same world, under the same roof. One is happy, other is miserable. because of the mental identifications with this world or with the Brahman. Choice is ours. Let's look at next one. In my book 334, and it's a little longer verse. Yati asat anusandhim bandh hetum vihaye swayam ayam aham asmi iti atam drishtiha ev tishthet sukhyati nanu nishtyaha brahmani swa anubhutyah harati param avidya karya dukham. Yati. Yati means yatan karne wala. That is a seeker. The person who is on the path of spirituality. Yati. Asat anusandhim, dwelling on the unreal. Bandh hetum, which causes bondage. Vihaye, giving up. Swayam ayam, I myself. Swayam ayam aham asmi, I myself am this. Iti means thus. Atam drishtyaha, as the Atma. Ev means alone. Tishthet, should remain. Sukhyati, gives rise to bliss. Sukh means bliss. Nanu, indeed. Nishtha, steadfastness. Brahmane, in Brahm. Swa anubhutyaha, gained through self-realization. Harati, removes. Param, thoroughly. Avidya karya dukham, the misery born of ignorance. Pratitam, which is experienced. So that means in the state of ignorance, it's experienced. The sadhak, the aspirant, should give up dwelling on the unreal, which causes bondage, and should always fix his thoughts on the Atma as this I myself am. So you have to tell again and again to yourself. For steadfastness in Brahma, gained through the realization of one's identity with it, gives rise to bliss and thoroughly removes the misery born of ignorance, which one experiences in the state of ignorance. Okay, so these verses is opening it more and more for us. First, he told us to meditate. And before that, he told us what we are not. Now he is telling us that you got to be steadfast as a seeker. Tell yourself, to your lower self, that's what we are telling, to the lower self, to the little I, that I am the Atma. I am not the body. I'm not the ego. I am part of Paramatma. So constant contemplation upon the sense objects, the asat, is the cause for the bondage, is telling us. So that's why we got to keep an eye on our mind. What is it doing? Is it thinking about the asat or the sat? Because if we keep on thinking about this unreal, sure, there's a bondage. With the bondage, there's a misery. If we identify with that all pure bliss, then sure, there is a bliss then. Choice is ours. And this is the sadhana we need to do. Because we know that lust and the passion, they cloud our mind. They cloud even that purpose in our life. We forget what the purpose of life is. We even forget how to live a life honestly. We know that we're going to be leaving everything behind. This objective world is not going to go with us, but we don't mind wasting our time, wasting our energies, creating more bad karmas. And that's how we just keep on making this bondage stronger and stronger. The bondage which is this Maya Jal. That's why Shankaracharya ji is saying, one who is striving to live up to the spiritual values. Yati, the sadhak, should give up the habit of constant reflection upon the unreal, the temporary, the objects, or even the experiences in this objective world. When we can really achieve this, when we have this first-hand experience, we will definitely erase all kinds of sorrows and the pangs and the pains of life. While living also, it's not only after letting go of the body, while living also, there's no misery. Other people might think that you are miserable, but a person is not miserable because person knows, I am not this. He comes to live the peace, that peace which never goes away, that peace which is beyond all kinds of understandings. Let's look at next one. बाहे अनुसंधि परिवर्ध्येत फलम दुर्वासना नाम एव ततः ततः अधिकाम ज्ञात्वा विवेकै परिहृत्य बाह्यम स्व आत्म अनुसंधिम विदधीत नित्यम. Bahe anusandhi, contemplation upon the external objects. Bahe is external. Parivardhyet, will intensify. Phalam, fruits. And fruits really means the vasanas. Durvasanam, the evil propensities. Ev means alone. Tataha, from that. Adhikam, will increase. Gyatva, knowing. So that means knowing this. Vivekei, through discrimination. Parihiritehe, giving up. By him, external. Swa atma anusandhim, to meditate on the self. With dheet, one should apply oneself. Nityam, constantly. So he says constant contemplation upon the external objects will only gather up its fruits. And then he is telling us, what is that? Enhancing the evil propensities which really grow from bad to worse. That's why they say that wherever you put your mental power, that's what grows. Okay, so you are giving the energy to something. So constant contemplation upon the external objects will only gather up its fruits. Enhancing the evil propensities, dukh vasana eva, which grow from bad to worse. Knowing this, through discrimination, one should leave the thoughts of external objects and constantly apply oneself to meditation on the self. So wherever we get a chance, meditate on the self. Somebody might say that how can we live then? Sure, when we are doing external things, do external, but most of the time you are not doing the external things. There are so many moments in life where you can absorb yourself into the Atma and Paramatma. There are more moments like that. Then it becomes a habit, then you can do the external things also while being absorbed in the internal. For this you have to do the yatan. That's why the sadhak is called a yati. Yatan karne wala. This is the yatan we have to do. Okay, so we got to see the new year is starting. Just watch your mind more and more. Are we really living a life like this? Are we moving towards this reality? Or are we just keep on doing what we have been doing so far? Thinking about the objective world. Choice is always there. If you are through constant yearning, continuously in contact with the outer world, and he says those results of that will multiply. Okay, and those are, what is the result of that? Vasanas, worldly vasanas. And worldly vasanas, that's where the desires keep on multiplying. Agitations keep on multiplying. Suffering keep on multiplying. Okay, so it's a contemplation on the outside. So the more you turn outward, the more inner entanglement will increase. Okay, and which is called vikshep also. The agitations, they multiply, restlessness. And that's how we keep on multiplying our vasanas. It's almost like a chain reaction. It just continues. We just keep on engaging ourselves into the outer. We drive ourselves crazy, ourselves. Fields of endless conflict. Okay, so he is telling us how to get out of it. He says the people who get the power of Vivek and Vairagya understand what are they getting. The peace which is beyond this world. It's like an eternal peace which never ends. So far, our mind has been constantly contacting the world. So that's why it just does not make sense to us. But at least we got to start somewhere. We got to take a control of our mind and turn the other way around. Instead of contacting in this objective world, the same mind turn it towards the subjective world, which is Brahm, seat of the consciousness. See, with the finite mind, because sometimes we think that this mind is also part of Prakriti. This is also an object, but with this finite mind, we cannot contact the infinite Brahma. But if we keep on trying, keep on making that attempt, contacting the infinite Brahma with the finite mind, this mind itself becomes, this is what he means over here, Brahma anusandhi, Brahma anuchintam. So this mind is the one which will take us over there. Then this mind is the one which drops down or we transcend the mind when it becomes Brahma anusandhi, Brahma anuchintam. Okay, so we got to give this kind of a direction to our mind. A divine altar of devotion and reverence is needed. That's why we should have an altar in our house also, where we can surrender every day. The mind which is craving the world, take that mind towards that altar with a spirit of utter dedication. So through constant practice, you will experience this contact with the higher. So it's a practice, this is a sadhana. A person who has, with discrimination, understood the cause for all the pitfalls and sorrows, must strive to withdraw himself from all the mental entanglements. And these entanglements, I'm talking about the worldly entanglements. That's how this conditioning can be changed. That's the only way we can feel ourselves this greater peace and greater experience and bliss. Okay, So let's stop it here today, because New Year's, we have a beautiful poem written by Urmilji today. She will be reciting that for us. And then after that, we will go through some question answers also on what we have studied today. Okay. And I would like you to make it, instead of the resolutions of losing weight, gaining weight, going this, doing this, make a resolution. I'll meditate more. I'll change the direction of my mind, which habitually goes into the objective world. I would like it to go towards the subjective world. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.